I think it's extremely important when doing breath work to focus on the intention as well as the mechanics. So when you're inhaling, it's linked to the sympathetic response system, which is about fight or flight. So it may not always be a very calming exercise when you're inhaling, but the exhale is really where the magic happens. Concentrate on lengthening your exhale as it's linked to the parasympathetic, and it's going to influence your body to calm down. So when you're having anxious thoughts or anxiety, things are not going well, with your health, or if your business may be in jeopardy because of all of the things that we are dealing with as a response to the COVID crisis, these exercises will help you to kind of stay in your body, stay in the present, stay connected to what's happening in the here and now, and not find yourself escalating, elevating, or kind of magnifying issues as they result from, an inundation of the news and social media and friends that are already elevated. This is kind of just going to keep you in a very centered and calm space. And there's a very brief exercise called the 4-7-8. You want to inhale through the nose, and we kind of did that earlier, for 4 seconds. You're going to hold that for a count of 7, and then exhale through the mouth, completely deflating your lungs and even making a whooshing sound if that helps, for a count of 8. You can try this exercise for 2 to 5 minutes anytime stress or anxiety start to present. And it's a wonderful even way to have just a mindfulness self-care exercise, even if you're not feeling anxious. It's just going to make you feel a little bit more calm, balanced, and centered. Another great thing to do is to reframe your thoughts. You want to always be aware that we can't control what happens in our lives. Things are going to happen that are simply out of our control, but what we can control is how we react. You want to recognize what's happening and tap into your negative response patterns. And by that, I mean, when you are presented with stressors or stimuli that kind of kick off those things in you that begin to present as anxiety, shortness of breath, elevated blood pressure, jumbled thoughts, an inability to really focus. These things are going to help you to kind of stay balanced and centered. And if you recognize what's happening when those responses are getting kicked off, it's really good for reframing. So you want to understand, are you stewing on things? Are you kind of worrying about things that you really have no control over? Are you magnifying things? You may have one small issue that you're dealing with, and are you kind of blowing it out of proportion to what is exactly happening in the moment? Are you predicting? We really have sometimes a negative habit of predicting negative outcomes. And so when you're doing those things, you're not present in your body and you're not present with the issue, and that can become outsized, and your response to it also can become outsized. So it's really, really important to really stay focused and connected to the present, the here and the now of what you're dealing with. Ask questions, like literally out loud, ask your questions. What's next? How am I going to adapt to this new circumstance? Run possible outcomes to the so that your perspective on the issue is clear. How do I feel about it? What are my thoughts around it? And then your response is not going to be elevated or outsized due to outsized stimuli, because you're really connected to the actual issue. And then that's when the reframing comes in. You want to come up with an alternative to the doomsday scenario. What does this issue look like? What does this situation look like if I actually get what I want? Frequently, we sabotage ourselves by telling ourselves no before we've even encountered any outside feedback. We're not feeling confident, so we say, I'm not experienced enough. I don't have the proper education or training. I'm not going to be taken seriously. I don't have the credibility, et cetera, et cetera. Those are things that we can control by simply reframing our thoughts around the way we respond to stressful or anxiety inciting issues. And it's really going to help you to get rid of the scarcity mindset. If you believe that there is an abundance of resources, of love, of success, of access to all of those things, then you can kind of move yourself out of those frames of thought that can put us in those negative and dark spaces. And then lastly, we want to learn how to pivot. And pivoting is really just about being adaptable. It's about being mentally agile. Am I able to understand that in life, circumstances and people, and most of all, we are going to be constantly changing, growing, and evolving. So we have to be able to not get so connected to specific outcomes. You need to ask questions of yourself and the people around you so that you can gather those resources necessary so that you can tackle the issues. And the best thing to do is run those questions through your own mind first. Okay, what is the issue? How am I going to respond to it? What are the possible alternatives to the way this is playing out? Who can I go to for additional assistance, et cetera, et cetera. It does take some practice, but once you start to do it, you find that when you question yourself and you really examine issues, they don't seem as large and overwhelming as they do when we kind of don't deal with them and we want to push them out. And it's going to help you in your personal and professional life. And then we want to accept alternative perspectives. If you don't get married to specific outcomes, you enjoy the freedom to pursue multiple avenues to reach your objective. The goal is to be successful at solving the problem, not to maintain one specific outcome. So if you open yourself up to evolving events, people coming in that can assist, being able to see an alternative to the doomsday scenario, you're going to have a much better percentage of success. And then lastly, you just want to be open. Be open to whatever is there. And there's so many things that if you don't have specificity and you don't have a very singular mind about how you can deal with issues, you really find that there's a lot of different avenues you can take to reach the same goal. And so those are just like some really quick tips and tricks. And basically, I wanted to just talk to you guys. I didn't want it to be like a huge presentation with me just talking at you, but I wanted to really touch base with people, see how they feel, see where they are, and offer some specific tools that you can use to deal with whatever issues you're encountering as a result of COVID or just in general. So at this point in our talk, I'd just like to open it up for any questions people may have.
Raina, can you talk for a little bit about what Reiki is, how it's helpful, and kind of the process?
Absolutely. So Reiki is an energetic modality. It is Japanese in origin. It is really about connecting to the 7 energy centers in the body called chakras. Some people are familiar, some may not be. So we definitely specifically work on the 7 chakra system, but there's schools of thoughts that believe you can go 8 through 14 in the etheric realm, and then 14 through 114 in the very highly, deeply evolved work that people do in their spiritual path. But we specifically in Reiki deal with the 7, starting at the root, which is the first chakra. At the base of the spine, it is responsible for your flight or fight responses. It's your survival instincts, your reptilian brain, those things that are just going to be automatic just for your daily survival. Next, you have the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra is seated in the womb and the testes. It is the creativity. It is the your vitality, your energy, your sensuality, your sexuality, your fertility, and your ability to procreate. And that is going to be really about connecting to pleasure, connecting to physicality, connecting to your energy. And then you have the solar plexus chakra. That's the gut. Those are the things that hit you right in the gut. You know they're true upon hearing them. That is your power center. That's where you manifest abundance. It's going to definitely be the engine that keeps you moving forward. Then you have the heart chakra, center of the chest. It's going to be responsible for love of self and love of others. It is going to be responsible for your romantic relationships, your familial relationships, your friendships, your business relationships, and your relationship to yourself, not being hyper self-critical, giving yourself a break, and just moving through the world with a modicum of grace. Next, you have the throat chakra. The throat chakra is responsible for your communication style, your message to the world, your ability to receive and to convey any type of messaging. It's your connection to your personal truth and how you convey that to others. Then you have the third eye chakra. The third eye chakra is in the center of the forehead. It's all about mindfulness, connection to your mental clarity and focus, ability to learn, ability to process information, ability to manifest and create specific pathways to your objectives. And then you have the crown chakra. It's right above the head. It's connected to spirituality, your connection to God, your creator, your angels and spirit guides, your intuitiveness, your higher functions, your bigger questions. What is my purpose in the world? That type of thing. When those things are all working in alignment, you're at optimal levels and you tend to have much better presence of mind, ability to move through issues, and just exist in the world. When those things are out of whack or blocked by a myriad of things, stress, traumas, childhood issues, physical ailment, illness, all of these things start to affect your ability to move through the world with your energy free flowing. When that happens, we come in as practitioners of Reiki and we do what's literally like if you were driving down the street and run out of gas, someone comes along to help you push your car. A Reiki practitioner is just coming along to give you an added push to remove any blockages and get your energy flowing. Reiki is fantastic. It is cumulative. So the more Reiki you receive, the deeper the Reiki goes. It's intuitive. The practitioner is not doing or guiding Reiki energy. Reiki energy knows exactly where it needs to be, and your body will receive it where it needs to go. So that's Reiki. And then I also do clinical hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy is good for removing negative patterns, assistance with smoking cessation or weight loss. It's wonderful for connecting to blockages in your mental capacity or things that you want to work through from your past experience that become inhibitors to your growth. And it's a wonderful, wonderful form of mental assistance with learning how to reframe your thoughts in the positive, especially if you tend to have that negative inner monologue. I think that hypnotherapy is fantastic for just creating positive thought patterns. In hypnotherapy, just to kind of disabuse some of those old notions about the type of hypnotherapy you see like in a Vegas show, that's purely entertainment. Hypnotherapy in its modern iteration is not about loss of control. You're not being put to sleep. You're not going to be given a suggestion that is separate or apart from your actual and true nature. Like, I'm not going to set you to barking like a dog or anything like that. That is not something you would actually want to do. So that's not something that you can be suggested to do. However, if you have specific goals or things that you're trying to achieve and you want just an assistance with staying focused and clear on that particular objective and intention, then this is a fantastic way to kind of give yourself what we call a future memory, where you are literally in our intake session going to tell me exactly what it is you want to achieve. And then I'm going to paint a picture in your mind of what it looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, what it tastes like when you get there, because your mind is an incredibly powerful tool. And if you believe something and you can visualize it, it is much easier to make it manifest and come true in your life. And so those are kind of the ways in which I work energetically with clients. But if you're more of a traditionalist and you like things that are a little bit more down to earth, I do actually work in very specific coaching modalities, helping to set road maps and create mile markers where you're going to achieve a goal with a specific set of replicable and scalable tools so that you can learn how to goal set for yourself. And so that's kind of what we do here and how we like to assist in helping people to become more adaptable and being more mentally agile and able to receive lots of different changes in work life, home life, physicality, and mental conditioning.
Thank you. That was amazing. That was a great overview. Very specific, which is fantastic.
Okay.
Who is on the call right now asked what a Reiki session looks like. If you could kind of walk us through like the process from having the appointment to leaving.
Sure, absolutely. So Reiki is a very intuitive and very calming modality. So when you come in, you'll meet with the practitioner. Typically, you're going to be asked some questions about why you're there for the session, anything you'd like to receive from it, and just some general questions to understand where you are. Is your anxiety heightened? Are you having issues with sleeping or outsized amounts of stress or things that are negatively affecting or impacting your day-to-day life? And if not, is this just a general wellness practice for you, something that you'd like to do to become more connected and deeply in tune with your own energetic signature? And once you do that, and that takes typically anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 if there's really a specific issue that you want to really dig deep on. And then you would be explained how Reiki is actually going to be performed. And that's when we talk about what Reiki is. Reiki energy is literally the invisible universal life force that animates your body. In the West, we call that the soul. In Christianity, that's something that you would consider the soul or the Holy Spirit or the inanimate energy that infuses your body. If you think of yourself like a robot and your brain as the supercomputer, this is going to be programming language. This is going to help you to access and disseminate your energetic body and your mental capacity. And then we talk about how Reiki is done. Reiki is done by a series of hand placements. The practitioner may or may not physically touch you. If they do, they are going to be in specific areas of the body because they're wanting to access those energy centers, starting from the head, down through the torso, and then finally at the feet. You may be asked to turn over. Some practitioners work solely from distance, so they don't necessarily even need to see you in person. I am attuned to do distance Reiki, and I do that as well. And because I'm also an avid crystal practitioner, I do crystal Reiki, so I would do crystal placements on the body. And once you start your session, you're going to feel the practitioner moving down through your energy centers, and most clients report things like feeling heat, buzzing, waves of energy, a really calm feeling, feeling enveloped in a very gentle white light. There's a lot of different ways Reiki presents, but the most frequent thing that I hear, I've even had clients like open their eyes and be like, do you have something in your hand? Is they're feeling what they say is heat or the release of energy throughout the body. And then after you finish the session, you'll typically sit down for about 5 minutes. I like to have my clients come fully back into their body and make sure that they're not a little woo-woo, because it can be a very heady experience. And if you haven't ever experienced that before, that infusion of energy can almost make you feel a little bit like you've had a glass of wine or two. So you need to really come back into yourself before you go back out. And I suggest that people make sure that they're staying very hydrated throughout the day. You typically are going to sleep extremely well. So it's always great if you have trouble sleeping or insomnia. And then people report just a general sense of well-being for several days after the session. And people come on different regularity. Some people want to come as frequently as possible. It could be as much as once a week. And then some people just like to come for what they call like a touch-up session, just kind of seasonally or with things that are popping up in life. And Reiki, like I said, because it is a cumulative practice, it's never negative. It's always fantastic because both the person that is receiving Reiki and the practitioner are being infused with Reiki energy. So it's a fantastic way to connect with yourself, and also for the practitioner, a great way to continuously infuse themselves with Reiki energy.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Raina.
You're welcome. I'm not sure if there are any other specific questions, but I'd like to kind of talk through some other alternative things that people can do if they're not traditionalist. As far as, first, always a great thing to do when you're having issues or things that you're not able to process through yourself is to seek professional therapy. But if you're a non-traditionalist and you like to try holistic measures, Reiki is fantastic. Also, crystals, I think, are extremely influential. I have a lot of people that come in and buy crystals for specific energies that they'd like to invite into their environment or into their physical presence. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. You can do that with pocket stones, which are just small tumbled and polished stones of different crystal and mineral specimens. Or you could get a large environmental piece, and that's something that's going to influence the entire environment. That's your entire home, your entire business, your entire office space, whatever that is. And those things range in size from things that you would put on a shelf to things that are standalone, very large in size. And I am an avid advocate for crystal therapy. I think it is a multifaceted modality, and that you're going to have something that is aesthetically pleasing as well as energetically infusing you with lots of beautiful energy. So those are just some things that we do here. In addition to that, we host events. We like to keep our clients involved in what we do. We have an on-site jewelry designer who happens to be my mom. She's fantastic. She created these beautiful pieces that I'm wearing today. And she will head at what we call our mala classes. And malas are basically a talisman. It's a wonderful, it's an accessory piece. It's a necklace with 108 stones or crystal beads. And it typically is worn when people are counting mantras, much like you would use a rosary, but it's also great as an accessory. You can wear it long, you can double it, you can knot it, and you're always going to be receiving those beautiful energies from the crystals that you select when you create your own mala. And you can program it with your specific intentions. They make fantastic gifts. They're wonderful just to have in your environment, even when you're not wearing them. I have people that will hang their malas in different places so they can see them even when they're not wearing them. So that's another great thing that we do. Just a lot of things. Our intention is to be a community space, to be a wellness space, to be a shared space. So if you have meetings or events that you'd like to host, if you'd like to create a ladies' night, or you have a group that you meet with, a book club or something else, we have an open space, and we like to create events around that, but also open it up for the community to utilize. So that's really kind of most of what I had prepared to talk about. If there are any other questions or things that people would like me to talk about, I'm happy to do that as well.
All right, let's see. I do have a question, Raina, about sure. You're talking about the crystals and gemstones and the healing powers and properties. Do you have to be someone who is very open to that kind of healing in order to get the energies from it? Or do you see better results that way than if somebody's kind of a little skeptical coming in? What's been your experience with that?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, to be honest, I came to this work very late in life. I didn't start practicing Reiki until I was 38 years old. So I went the majority of my life being one of those skeptics, a non-believer. I don't believe in that. That's hoo-ha. That's hoogity boogity. That's not my thing. I'm a woman of letters and science. And so it wasn't something that I actually really connected to until I was introduced to it in a very intimate way and started to realize how influential these crystals could be. And it was through beginning to do my Reiki practice and working with crystals and seeing that there was kind of a through line in my own life. My mother loved crystal. As a kid, I remember she had lots of beautiful crystals, mostly clear quartz, in her home, carved into shapes like animals and flowers and beautiful things that we just looked at as object d'art instead of as things that were influencing us. So I always loved aesthetically crystals, but I didn't realize how resonant they could be with their individualized energies until I started working in Reiki and then looking at alternative modalities and buying crystals and working with crystals in meditation and laying them out in placements and creating grids and drinking from like a crystal water bottle and things like that, where you're constantly what I call charging yourself, because crystals on their own, especially if you're a skeptic, like it's not a magic wand. It's not going to do anything if you're not at least open to the possibility that it is, because crystals are programmable and they are very intuitive in that when you receive crystals, you typically want to cleanse them, and there's a myriad of ways you can do that. And once you cleanse them, you want to program them with your intention, which is literally like saying an affirmation. I really want to receive some calm when I utilize this crystal. And because crystals work on the same property as they do in your watch, because you use all of your watches run on a crystal, your cell phone runs on a crystal, your PC runs on a crystal. It is highly capable of holding and recording vast amounts of information. So crystals have been forming for sometimes millennia. So when you are working with them, this crystal is capable of receiving whatever your intention is and holding that space so that it remains an affirmation. Every time you interact with it, it is going to be exuding that energy that you programmed it with. That's the same way your computer works. It's the same way your cell phone works. They work that same way on you. Again, using the frame of reference of your body being a robot and your brain being a supercomputer. If you think of crystals like batteries, it all kind of works in conjunction together. And I see your question, do I believe that raw form is more powerful than faceted? No, I believe that crystals are going to hold, because they are the microcrystalline, the scientific formation of the crystal is exact through and through. So even when you cut crystal into shapes, or you facet it, or you polish it or tumbled, you're not changing its chemical makeup. So the only difference in the raw form of the stone and the polished form of the stone is that the raw form of the stone has not been programmed with any intention outside of its natural characteristics. When you buy stones that are cut into the shapes of what we call talismans, like animals or flowers, or shapes like obelisks or pyramids, that is initial programming. That is kind of giving it a directive. If it's in the shape of a pyramid, it's going to be an energy generator. If it's in the shape of an animal, it's going to be a talisman. So you have things like elephants with trunks up that are great for good luck. You see things like Buddhas that are about mindfulness exercise. You see things like butterflies that are about rebirth and reformation, reanimation, and adaptability. You see things like just different animals that are replicated throughout the crystal world because of the inherent energies that they bring, and then that works in conjunction with the stone. So there's really two schools of thought. Some people feel like raw is the most authentic and close to nature, and so they prefer them aesthetically. And some people are more enamored of a smooth hand feel, things that feel really good when you're creating circuits or doing meditations, things that really feel nice on the body when you're doing placements for Reiki or other healing modalities, things that are similar in size and aesthetics when you're creating grids, et cetera, et cetera. So for me personally, I love raw specimens, but I don't believe they are any more or less energetic than polished and tumbled. I think they're just not as programmed, if that answers your question. And you will find in the store both raw and tumbled, and sometimes raw and tumbled right next to each other, because I want people to have the connection to what feels good to them. Crystals are about, they're very tactile. They speak to you. So when you come into the store, whether you are someone who is a veteran rock hound or someone who's just coming in, you know, because you just stumbled upon it, you're going to receive the same amount of influence, because the crystals work. And I kind of walk something back that I said earlier about, do they only work if you believe in them? They're going to do their work regardless. What you receive from them changes based on your ability to connect to that energy, because crystals were here before us and they'll be here after us. They are of the earth, they were formed in the earth, and so they have innate characteristics and energies that they will possess regardless of how sensitive or not sensitive you are to receiving those energies. Oh, fantastic. I'd love for you to come into the store, Jennifer. I'd love to speak to someone who is extremely educated on the more fine jewelry component, because we are moving into that kind of avenue with people coming in and wanting even more refined pieces. So it would be lovely if you could come visit. I'm right downtown, so we'll talk later. But yeah, we love everything. I love raw. I love faceted, because I love anything sparkly, you know, shiny things. I love that. I love just smooth stones. Yeah, this particular set I wear a lot when I'm going to do something that I'm going to be communicating, because it's got aquamarine in it. And it's also got this beautiful shell, and anything from the sea is going to be very calming. It's going to keep me from getting extremely nervous, especially when I lost connectivity. I was like, oh, this is off to a rip-roaring start. So thank you all for being so patient and lovely. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all.